The quarterback race in Cleveland, we saw guys get out there, wing it around a little bit. We even heard from the two rookies in front of a microphone. What are you hearing out of Cleveland first blush with this situation, Tom?
I would start here. The pick for the Browns was Dylan Gabriel. That was the quarterback they targeted. That was the guy they took in the third round. That absolutely was Kevin Stefanski's guy. It sounds like that was also Andrew Berry's guy. The Shedeur Sanders pick was because you're in the fifth round and you've got a guy who certainly has higher than fifth round talent. Again, it's a dart throw. It's you're taking as many bites at the apple as you possibly can and hoping that one of these guys works out. Why not take a stab at a guy in the fifth round? You know, you've got Kenny Pickett there. You've got Joe Flacco there. I would say just going into this, you would say Joe Flacco has the leg up because the coaches know him, because he knows that system. He's functioned in that offense before. Kevin Stefanski's gone to the playoffs with him. He knows that he can trust Joe. Realistically, Joe's probably not starting 17 games this year. You know, he's been a very durable quarterback through the course of his career. But, you know, the odds that at 41 years old, I believe he is, that he's going to play the entire season, you'd probably say that that's an unlikely type of a scenario. So based on what I hear, it sounds like it's wide open. It sounds like they're going in with open minds into this competition. The real question is going to be, it's one thing for, and I know that Kevin Stefanski said, don't read too much into the reps and rookie minicamp. It's very, very early. There's plenty of reps to go around. Well, as you get deeper into the summer and those veterans come back with Flacco and with Pickett, Deshaun Watson's not going to be ready for anything in the offseason. We'll see if he ultimately is able to do anything on the field even during the course of the regular season here. But when you've got four guys, there's reasons the teams, a lot of teams philosophically want to pare that down and really roll with three in training camp. So very quickly as we get into the OTA portion, you'll see how they're dividing those reps. You'll see what the order is. I would anticipate just going in based on how, you know, these things tend to go. It'll be Flacco, then Pickett, then Gabriel, and then Shedeur Sanders getting the fourth reps or splitting the third reps or however they do it here. But that's got a chance to evolve. And by the time we get to training camp, I would certainly think that Kevin Stefanski is going to want to have a real good idea of, okay, here's the two or three guys we've got to give those reps to. Does that mean that you're cutting somebody or trading somebody? Not necessarily. But it does mean you're going to be shifting those reps in a certain direction. That'll give us an early read on how they're looking at that position going into 2025.
Well, I don't know. What do we give, guys? Mid-June till we hear the Shedeur's not that bad stories. You know, Shedeur is not, I mean, we're not seeing any indication of any of those, you know, off the field, look at me, red flags. You know, he's actually a pro. He knows the grindstone. You already getting those stories coming out of Cleveland, then, Tom? Or am I just, am I front-loading it right now?
Well, I would say this, you know, nobody in terms of Shedeur Sanders' approach, his work ethic, his study habits, nobody said a bad word about that through the course of the process. It was a lot of other different things that went into the Shedeur evaluation. So I have no doubt that he's going to come in and he's going to do things the right way in terms of how he is in meetings and how he is on the practice field. I would say, let's see what's happening if we get into June and July and Shedeur is, you know, getting the third, fourth reps. Maybe he rises before that. If he doesn't, then I think, Rich, you're going to hear less of the, boy, Shedeur's not that bad. And what that's very quickly going to turn into is, why isn't Shedeur getting more reps? Why isn't he getting a real opportunity to win the job, which you wouldn't have that conversation about any other fifth-round pick. And that's one of the many reasons that certain teams were a little bit skittish based on their experience through the pre-draft process and knowing when you bring in a guy who's that high profile, it's going to turn the entire conversation surrounding a quarterback competition that should be relatively straightforward. But is Shedeur Sanders going to get his opportunity to show what he can do? Can he beat out Dylan Gabriel? Can he beat out Kenny Pickett? Can he beat out Joe Flacco? There's nothing saying that he can't, but again, we'll get a better idea once those veterans are out on the practice field, how they're dividing those reps and trying to manage a quarterback competition. Because I know I've heard coaches say before, there's no real quarterback competitions. We all know going in kind of how this is going to go. You very quickly get that sense. Let's see how Kevin Stefanski sets it up through the course of the process. Who gets those reps in June?
Okay. What's the order of business right now? Is it we're waiting on Rodgers, or you're just done with that? Are you even texting people about this story at all, or what?
It's the single biggest loose ends, and it impacts some of the other loose ends, such as Kirk Cousins. And so, absolutely, It's the, one of the driving storylines through the course of this offseason. It'll go on as long as Aaron Rodgers lets it go on. What I would tell you is it has not changed in the past 6 weeks. Everything has been pointing. If you just look at this logically, forget information for a second. That's my lane, but let's just look at this logically.
Sure.
Aaron Rodgers has one team right now that really needs a starting quarterback. It's in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers took one visit. It was to the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers has been throwing with one wide receiver out in California. It is DK Metcalf, who is a member of the Steelers. And Pittsburgh, other than drafting Will Howard late in the draft, they've absolutely operated like a team that anticipates, maybe not knowing 100%, but anticipates that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a member of the Steelers and their starting quarterback come week one. We also know this about Aaron. He's never liked off-season workouts. He showed up, for a lot of them back during his Green Bay days, but when it came to the collective bargaining negotiations in 2020, he was the loudest voice saying we shouldn't have to do anything until August 1st. There should be no voluntary stuff. There should be no mandatory minicamp. August 1st should be the start. He lost on that point because there just wasn't a lot of support for it, particularly because it didn't make sense for the union to leverage something that players already don't have to do. But, for Aaron, he's never felt like those things were necessary here. And so is it the week of minicamp? Is it the day after minicamp? Is it the week before training camp? Is it the day before training camp begins? Somewhere in that bandwidth, I believe. I don't know this for a fact, Rich, because we're talking about the enigma of the NFL here. But I anticipate Aaron Rodgers is going to end up committing to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that it's a matter of when, not if. He could wake up tomorrow and decide to go to Egypt for 3 months and put his football career behind him. I don't know that, but I would say all signs continue to point right now to Aaron Rodgers being the Steelers quarterback in 2025.
So let me ask you this. Riddle me this, Tom Pelisero, who, again, is joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show with the Dan Quinn look. The Saints, sir, nice. Any shot the Saints give him a call now that Derek Carr is officially not going to be their quarterback, retired, gone, and they've got a very green quarterback room, including the kid they drafted in this year's draft in Green Bay. Any shot the Saints give a call to Aaron Rodgers? A FaceTime, obviously, to Aaron Rodgers.
Until Aaron Rodgers commits to playing somewhere, you never say never on anything. It's the NFL in 2025. We've seen much wilder stuff than that happen. I would say, based on what I know about the Saints, they've been aware of the retirement possibility for over a month with Derek Carr. They've known that there's an issue with his shoulder. They've known that Derek Carr, really even through the conversations about his contract and otherwise, didn't express a great deal of interest necessarily in wanting to continue to play for the Saints. And that's why they proceeded the way they did. That's why they drafted Tyler Shuck, who, granted, didn't start a ton of games, but did play 7 years of college football and has a foundation in a lot of different offenses, and his, perhaps the most pro-ready quarterback in this entire draft, just in terms of his knowledge base, the responsibility he had at the line of scrimmage in Louisville and otherwise. But also, Kellen Moore coming in. They still have veterans on the roster. Tyrann Mathieu still there, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis. But they're getting young at a lot of spots really quickly here. They've drafted quarterbacks 3 years in a row, different coaching staff now, but same front office. They drafted Jake Haener. They drafted Spencer Rattler. Now they drafted Tyler Shuck. Somewhere within those three guys, they're hoping, because these are all throwing darts at the dartboard when it comes to the quarterback position, maybe one of these guys ends up being a dude, and you don't take Tyler Shuck with the 40th overall pick if you don't believe this guy at least has a chance to be your starting quarterback. The Saints are always a pedal to the metal type of team. They've been that way for years. It's max out the salary cap. It's mortgage future draft picks. There's never a rebuild. There is never a burn it down and build it back up. They are always go, go, go. And certainly they feel like they're in a division where they've got the opportunity to compete right away. I don't get the sense that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up in New Orleans. There is perhaps, you could certainly argue, a clearer path for Aaron Rodgers to get into the playoffs in the NFC, and particularly in the NFC South. But that's about the only argument for going to New Orleans. It would still, again, I anticipate Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Steelers quarterback. But until he actually signs somewhere and makes a commitment. Again, he's
Xin chào các bạn nha. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn cách dán. Đây là máy xay sinh tố nha. Bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn cách dán.